Hey, Chadi, Bazzi here, Real Estate Success Mastery TV. We're reviewing the first half of the year, and today's part number 3. Today is the fun part, numbers. I want to make it very simple for you though, so stay tuned. I'll see you in a second. Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Sales Mastery TV. I am your host, Chadi Bazzi, a real estate coach and trainer, and I'm on a mission to help you master the art of selling so you can take more listings than you are right now, sell more homes much faster than you ever have, work less, and build a business by design. A business you absolutely love that gives you the money, time, and freedom that you deserve. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hey there, Chadi Bazzi here. Welcome to Real Estate Success Mastery TV. Today we are doing episode number 3 of our first 6-month mid-year review, so I can help you get clear on exactly where you are year to date and what are some of the things that you need to do different to really take your business to the next level. So on Monday, I challenged you with about Monday, meaning 2 episodes ago. In part number 1, I challenged you with a series of questions to really take inventory of where you at versus where you need to be. Just a couple of days ago, in part number 2, we took that a step further, and I challenged you with about 9 different questions to really take a look at certain specific skill sets, systems, etc. And before we get into the numbers today, I hope that you've already taken the time to watch those videos, and not only just watch those videos, I hope you've taken the time to really answer those questions, because if you have, it's like you now are more clear on what the next 6 months looks like. You should be by now a little bit more, like you feel a different level of commitment. You feel a little bit more certain about the future. You should by now feel a little bit more connected to your why, etc. And if you've watched those videos, then I'm sure you feel those things. And if you haven't watched those videos, all I can tell you is, people that have gone through the last 2 videos are feeling different right now, and they're feeling good about the next 6 months. So I really want you to have that kind of feeling too. So make sure you go back and watch those videos. And this is part number 3 for those of you who have already watched those videos. Now the fun begins. The fun begins, and a challenge for many of you guys begin. This is the numbers side of the business. Now, for every single one of my one-on-one coaching clients, they have a form that looks like this. This is a tracking form. In this tracking form, like I take a look at this and I know everything that's happening in their business just as a result of this. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna ask you for a specific numbers, okay, that we need to take a look at. Year-to-date numbers is what I'm looking for. So I want you to write this down and then come up with identify the numbers for you. So number 1, I want you to know year-to-date, how many days have you worked so far this year? It's very important for you to know how many days you worked so far. So let me give you a list of all the numbers that you need to have right now, then I'll tell you exactly what we're going to do with them. So number 1, I want you to identify how many days you've worked this year. Number 2, how many hours did you do lead generation? How many hours did you prospect? Number 3, how many contacts did you make so far this year? How many contacts did you make so far this year? Number 4, how many listing appointments did you set? How many listing appointments did you set? Number 5, how many listing appointments did you go on? How many listing appointments did you go on? Because not every appointment that you set, you end up going on. Next, how many listings did you take? How many listings did you take? And next, how many of those listings have sold? How many listings have sold? And next, how many buyer appointments did you go on? How many buyer sales did you have so far this year? And then how many transactions did you close? And the final number is how much money have you made? So I'm going to go through this one more time for you to catch up. Number 1, how many days did you work so far this year? How many hours did you prospect? How many contacts did you make? How many listing appointments did you set? How many listing appointments did you go on? How many listings did you make? How many buyer appointments did you go on? How many buyer sales did you make? How many transactions did you close? And how much money did you make so far this year, so far year to date? So before we go any further, for some of you, you might want to pause this audio and or this video, and you want to go ahead and try to come up with these numbers, because it's really going to help you out when we take a look at what these numbers are really saying to you. So if you have these numbers, okay. By the way, the next thing that I want you to do, which I don't think the majority of you can do, unless you really have a solid tracking form, stuff like that. This is going to be like really selling you on the importance of really keeping track of these numbers. Because, some of the things that, we're doing right now with my one-on-one coaching clients this week is the following. We're not only taking a look at where they are year to date. We're taking a look at the numbers that I've asked you to come up with. And if you could do this for you, it would be awesome. We're taking a look at these numbers specifically for the month of January, specifically for February, specifically for March, and then specifically for April, May, and June, because we want to compare every single month to the next month, to the previous month. We want to see where we are making progress and where we are being stopped. And then we take that a step further. We compile January, February, March, and that will give us totals for quarter number 1. Okay, and then we compile April, May, June, and that will give us numbers for, quarter number 2. So now we're not only just doing it on a monthly basis, but we're also tracking, what happened during the first quarter versus the second quarter. Obviously, we stopped and took inventory of everything the way we are right now for a mid-year review at the end of the first quarter to really set up the second quarter. So our second quarter should be better than our first quarter. So we want to see exactly what happened, and these numbers will tell you exactly what happened. Now, once you identify these numbers, then you really need to begin to do some mathematics here. I need you to break down the following based on the numbers that you got right here is, okay, hours prospected per day. Okay, let's take a look at, specifically how much time you're spending prospecting every single day. See, because for some of you, you prospect for a week, you take 2 weeks off, prospect for a week, 2 weeks off, so your average is completely different. This is a very critically important number to really take a look at, because most people think they're doing a lot more than they really are doing. But when you keep track of the numbers never lie unless you lie about the numbers. Okay, so take a look at hours prospected per day. And I don't know how many hours you should be prospecting per day, but you should set a goal for yourself, whatever it might be for you, and then let this really tell you whether you're on track or not. And then contacts per day. How many contacts are you making per day? Okay, so hours prospected per day, contacts per day. Get clear on exactly how many people you're speaking to every single day. Some people think they're speaking to a lot of people, but when they really start keeping track of the numbers and take a look at this, they're really not speaking to that many people. So contacts per day, and then contacts per hour. Contacts per hour. And how do you do the mathematical formulas on this? It's simple. So for example, contacts per hour. You take the amount of contacts that you made, you divide that by the amount of hours that you prospected, and that tells you exactly how many people you're talking to on an hourly basis. Now, in my opinion, is if you're speaking to, less than 8 people in an hour, it simply means that you're having too long of conversations with the people that you are connecting with. Certain people that, maybe you should let go of immediately because you've identified they're not going to do anything with you. Or the second reason why your number of contacts may be very low per hour is simply because you have too many distractions going on during that hour. Like for example, you're doing your lead generation, but you're also checking your email at the same time. You're making phone calls, but you're also checking your voicemail, incoming calls, and or on Facebook, etc. during that. So it's very important to keep track of numbers because the numbers tell you all these things. The next number is hours prospected to a listing appointment. I mean, wouldn't it be good to know how many people or how many hours you got to prospect to get to a listing appointment? That would help because you have an idea of how many listings you want to take in the next 6 months. Okay, so now you can reverse engineer the numbers based on this. It tells you, hey, if you want to take 10 listings, that means you got to do 20 hours of prospecting. 20 hours of prospecting, you got 20 weeks left. That means you got to do an hour a week or whatever the numbers might be for you. Okay, and you'll see where we're going with this in a couple of minutes, okay? So hours prospected to a listing appointment done. The next number I want you to come up with is contacts to a listing appointment done. How many contacts to a listing appointment done? It's an easy formula, guys. It's simple. You've done, let's say, for example, 500 contacts so far, okay? And you've gone on, let's say, for example, 5 appointments. That simply means that you're going on 1 appointment for every 100 contacts you make. Next number, hours prospected to a listing taken. Hours prospected to a listing taken. Same exact thing, easy formula. How many hours did you prospect? How many listings did you take? Divide the two together. And it tells you how many hours to a listing taken. Next number, contacts to a listing taken. How many contacts you gotta make in order for you to take a listing? Okay, contacts to a listing taken. And then we wanna know your closing ratio on listing appointments. What is your closing ratio on listing appointments? That means how many appointments you go on and how many of them you actually take. So for example, for every 10 appointments you go on, how many do you end up listing? We need to know exactly where you're at. So the reason being is that tells us a couple of different things, your closing ratio. It tells us whether you have a poor system in place, a poor follow-up system in place, or a poor skill set in place. And that tells us what we need to work on. Now, where should you be? In my mind, I think that every single person should be at least 80%. And the other 20% that you don't convert, I want 10% of those people to be people that said no to you, and the other 10% is because you said no to them. But you should be taking 80% of the listings that you need to go on. So I don't know specifically what your ratios are, but you need to find out your closing ratio on buyer appointments to, or closing ratio on listing appointments to listings taken. And then I want your closing ratio on buyer appointments to buyer sales. Buyer appointments to buyer sales. Another very important number to know. Are you the kind of person that's, showing a buyer 50 homes before they buy one? I mean, in my opinion, if you have the right formula, if you have the right skill set, you should be selling every single buyer a home in the first 5 showings. Now, let me explain what I mean in the first 5 showings. Okay, let's say you have a buyer and you're taking them out today to take a look at 3 properties. Okay, we call that one showing. So that's like one appointment. Okay, so just because we showed them 3 properties today, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's 3 different appointments. That we consider that to be one appointment. By the way, you really shouldn't be showing more than 3 homes at a time because then it just confuses the buyers anyways. But that's another conversation. We'll do another video about that in the future. And then what I want you to come up with right here is income generated per contact. How much money are you making for every single person that you are speaking to? Like for example, we did a video about this about a week ago with Kathleen Ogilvy, and I recall her number is the most recent number in my head. And she was earning like $89.14 for every single person she spoke to. So now we know that if she wants to make a certain amount of money, then there's a certain amount of people that we need to speak to. And then income generated per hour prospected. How much money are you worth for every single hour that you're prospecting? I mean, if you know that you are worth, let's say, for example, I'll throw a number out there. Let's say you're worth $500 for every hour that you're prospecting, and then somebody comes and tries to distract you. You have a different relationship with that hour of prospecting. You're not going to give up that $500. The only way that you're going to give up that 1 hour of prospecting right now is if it's worth more than that $500 that you can generate by doing that 1 hour prospecting. So I don't know what your specific numbers are, but it's very critically important that you get clear on exactly where you're at right now, because what we're about to do right now is we're about to reverse engineer the next 6 months, okay? So here is the next 6 months. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna begin by setting an income goal for the next 6 months. So what is your income goal for the next 6 months? I don't know. Whatever it's got to be, either half of the remainder half, or maybe you made an adjustment. I don't know what it is. So what is your income goal for the next 6 months? Okay, and then you're going to do the math. Based on that income goal, okay, how many sales do you need to make? So for example, if the income goal is $100,000 and you got to average commission check $5,000, you want to make $100,000, then you got to do 20 transactions. So there's your number. So what is your income goal? What is your transaction goal? Okay. And then the next thing I want you to identify is how many of those will be listings and how many of those will be buyer sales. So how many will be listings sold? How many will be buyer sales? Okay. So we got 4 very critically important numbers. So now the next question that you need to write down and take a look at is, where will the listings come from? Where will the listings come from? And then where will the buyers come from? So I'm going to go a little bit quicker here. You can pause the video, etc. But where will the listings come from? Where will the buyers come from? You need to identify that. Okay. So now let's go back for the listing side. It doesn't matter where you say they're going to come from. You already know how many listings you need to go on in order for you to take a listing. So now the question is, the next number you need to come up with is, how many listing appointments do I need to set? How many listing appointments do I need to go on? So So how many listing appointments do you need to set? How many listing appointments do you need to go on? Okay, and now you already know how many hours of prospecting you got to do to take a listing. So how many hours do I need to prospect? And then how many contacts do I need to make? How many hours I need to prospect? How many contacts I need to make? And then you take the amount of days that you plan on working in the next 6 months and you start doing the mathematical formulas here. So based on those days, let's say you're going to work 100 days in the next 6 months. Okay, and let's say you got to go on 20 appointments. Then, you divide 20 into 100 and that will give you 5. That means you got to go on 100 days, 20 appointments. That means you got to go on 1 appointment every week. Okay. How many hours you got to prospect in order for you to reach the goal? Okay. Based on the numbers that you've gotten earlier, if it takes you 2 hours, okay, to set an appointment, and you want to take 10 listings, it simply means you got to do 20 hours of prospecting. So you take the 20 hours of prospecting, you divide that into 100 days, and that tells you that you need to do, 20 minutes a day or whatever that number is, okay? And then the same thing for contacts. How many contacts to a listing appointment? You take that number and you multiply it by the amount of appointments, or how many contacts to a listing taken. Okay, so for example, if it is 100 contacts to a listing taken and you want to take, 10 listings, that means you got to do 1,000 contacts. Now you take that 1,000 contacts, you divide that by 100 days, and that tells you that you got to do 10 contacts a day or whatever that number is. So do you see where we're going by reverse engineering these numbers? That's it. So these are the numbers that I want you to reverse engineer. So number 1, identify how much income you want to earn in the next 6 months. Number 2, identify how many transactions you want to close. Number 3, identify how many of those will be sellers, how many of those will be buyers. Then identify where are the sellers going to come from. Then where are the buyers going to come from? Then identify how many people you need to speak to, or how many appointments you need to go on, to how many appointments you need to set for sellers, how many listing appointments do you need to set, how many listing appointments do you need to actually end up going on, and how many listings you need to take. We already talked about that part. Okay, same thing for buyers. How many buyer appointments you need to set, and how many buyer sales you need, which we already talked about that. Reverse engineer the numbers. How many days you're going to work, and then based on all the numbers that you've come up with, how many contacts you need to make every single day, and how many hours you need to prospect every single day, and that's it. Done. You do look, for some of you, you need to watch this video like 2-3 times. For some of you, you need to watch this video like 2-3 times. And what I'll do is in the show notes, what I'm going to do in the show notes here is I am going to actually have my assistant type up all the questions, because there's a lot of questions that you need to take a look at. And we'll put that in the show notes. And the only place to get that is obviously for you to go to ChadiBazzi.com. So you go to ChadiBazzi.com and you'll be able to get all the questions and all the number formulas, etc. I'll make sure we put that there for you. All right, so look, we already done part number 1. We done part number 2, and this is the final and most important part of really setting up your next 6 months. Okay, so really like double check and go through these videos like twice. I mean, it's important because doing this work right now could ultimately mean you reaching your goal or you're not reaching your goal. Okay, I did everything in my part to give you all the elements, questions, and challenges that I need to give you for you to really think a little bit differently, take a little bit of a different action, and really do more in the next 6 months than you've done in the first 6 months. So I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. Look, for some of you, you're going to have questions. If you have a question, simply go to resmquestions.com, ask me a question there. And if you feel like I've really delivered over the course of the last 3 videos on this part, or through all the videos we've done so far, that I feel like I've already earned your 5-star rating and positive review on iTunes. So simply go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, Real Estate Success Mastery TV, and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. And if you know anyone else that could benefit from this video, then please forward that video to them. So again, thank you very much for your listening. I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.